Raw had barely begun when the tension backstage became impossible to ignore. The camera cut to the parking area, and Brock Lesnar was already there. No music, no announcement, just Brock stepping out of his truck, shoulders tight, eyes locked forward. The beast incarnate didn't look like a man scheduled to appear. He looked like a man hunting. Inside the arena, whispers spread quickly. Brock Lesnar was in the building. No one knew why. Minutes later, the camera cut again, this time to the locker room hallway. Batista stood there, arms crossed, jaw clenched, stretching his neck slowly. The animal looked ready for war. He didn't smile. He didn't talk. He stared straight down the corridor like he knew what was coming. Then it happened. Brock Lesnar turned the corner. The two men locked eyes. No words, no movement, just raw presence colliding in silence. Crew members froze. Security tensed up. This wasn't nostalgia. This wasn't a reunion. This was unfinished business. Brock broke the silence first. He stepped forward and said Batista always talked big, but he never beat him when it mattered. Batista fired back instantly, saying Brock was protected, controlled, and never had to earn respect the hard way. The air grew heavy. Brock stepped closer. Batista didn't back up. Foreheads nearly touched. And then another voice cut through the tension. "Easy, boys." The Rock. The hallway erupted as the Great One stepped into frame. Calm, confident, smiling, but not joking. He looked from Brock to Batista, eyes sharp, reading the room instantly. The Rock said this hallway couldn't handle the egos standing in it. He said Raw wasn't built for three alpha predators colliding without warning. Brock turned toward The Rock, eyes narrowing. He said The Rock talks too much for someone who walks away whenever things get uncomfortable. The smile faded. The Rock stepped forward, nose to nose with Brock. He said Brock doesn't intimidate him. He said he stood across from monsters his entire career, and put them down. Batista laughed. He said it's funny watching two legends argue about who's more dangerous when the real animal is standing right between them. That's when it exploded. Brock shoved Batista. Batista swung back. Security rushed in, but it was useless. Brock slammed one guard into a wall. Batista sent another crashing into a production crate. The Rock grabbed Brock from behind, trying to pull him back, but Brock turned and shoved him hard into a steel door. The crowd inside the arena could hear the noise. Raw cut to the chaos live. The Rock stood back up slowly, eyes blazing. He removed his sunglasses and handed them to a stunned crew member. He rolled his shoulders once. Then he attacked. Right hands flew. Brock answered with elbows. Batista tackled both men, driving them into equipment cases. Bodies hit concrete. Shouting echoed everywhere. Officials screamed for backup. Adam Pearce rushed in, shouting orders, demanding separation, threatening fines, suspensions, everything. None of it mattered. Brock broke free and lifted Batista, slamming him into the wall. Batista dropped to one knee but exploded back with a spinebuster that shook the hallway. The Rock seized the moment and rocked Batista with a massive right hand. Brock charged. The Rock ducked. Batista got crushed against the wall. Security finally swarmed in numbers too large to ignore. Dozens of officials forced the three apart, barely holding them back. Brock screamed that this wasn't finished. Batista shouted that Raw couldn't contain him. The Rock, breathing heavy, eyes locked on both men, said something that made the moment even bigger. He said Raw just became very dangerous. The camera zoomed in on Brock Lesnar being dragged away, still fighting, eyes wild. Batista stared straight ahead, chest heaving, smiling through pain. And The Rock stood in the middle of the chaos, calm once again, nodding slowly. Because that confrontation wasn't accidental. It was inevitable. Three forces, one collision, and Raw had just become ground zero. The cameras cut away, but the damage was already done. Raw tried to move on. Matches continued. Promos were delivered, but nothing that followed felt important. The locker room was buzzing, restless, like it knew something historic had just been set in motion. Backstage, Brock Lesnar was the first to break free. He shoved past security, breathing hard, eyes burning, demanding to be let loose. Officials tried to reason with him, but Brock wasn't listening. He ripped off his jacket and threw it against the wall, shouting that nobody gets to touch him and walk away. Across the building, Batista sat on a crate, wrists taped again, jaw tight. A trainer asked if he was okay. Batista waved him off. He said pain doesn't bother him. What bothered him was disrespect. He said Brock didn't finish the job. And neither did The Rock. Down another hallway, The Rock stood alone, hands on his hips, staring at the floor. The smile was gone. The jokes were gone. This wasn't about nostalgia or legends. This was about pride. The Rock finally looked up and said, "It's funny how monsters always think they own the jungle, until 3 of them show up at once." Later in the night, Adam Pearce stood in the ring, visibly frustrated. He said Raw couldn't survive with chaos like this. He said Brock Lesnar, Batista, and The Rock put the entire show at risk. He said there would be consequences. That's when Brock Lesnar's music hit. The crowd erupted as Brock stormed onto the stage. He didn't wait for a microphone. He demanded answers. He said nobody tells him where he can and can't fight. He said Raw exists because men like him make it dangerous. Before Pearce could respond, Batista's music hit. The animal walked out slowly, cracking his neck, eyes locked on Brock. He said Brock doesn't get to decide what Raw is. He said he's dominated this industry just as long, and he's not afraid of anyone. Then the arena went silent. "If ya smell," The Rock's music hit. The roof blew off the building. The Rock stepped onto the stage, eyes locked on both men. He took a microphone and let the crowd settle before speaking. He said this isn't about who's toughest backstage. He said it's about who can stand when the lights are on and the stakes are real. Brock laughed. Batista smirked. Pearce looked like he was about to lose his mind. The Rock turned to Brock and said if Brock wants a fight, he's standing in front of one. He turned to Batista and said if Batista wants respect, he earns it in the ring, not in hallways. Then The Rock said the words that changed everything. He said there's only one way to settle this. The crowd knew it. Brock knew it. Batista knew it. A match. Not later. Not next week. At the biggest stage possible. Pearce hesitated, but the crowd demanded it. He finally agreed. He said if these 3 want war, they'll get it. But on WWE's terms. Brock leaned into the camera and said he doesn't care where it happens. He said bodies will fall. Batista said predators don't hide. They hunt. The Rock raised an eyebrow and said the people deserve a collision, not a conversation. The 3 men stood in the ring, inches apart, the tension unbearable. No punches thrown. Not yet. Because this time, the fight was coming with consequences. And Raw had just guaranteed chaos at a level it had never seen before.